Good afternoon. My name is Chris Adlam with Youth Pledge for Employers, and I'm delighted to be joined by Sharon Took, the General Manager at Norfolk Industries. Hello, Sharon.
Hi, how are you?
Yes, I'm not too bad. Yourself?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for giving up your time to speak to me this afternoon. And I guess my first question really is to be, can you tell us about Norfolk Industries and what it is you do?
Sure, yes. Yeah, well, we are a factory that manufactures small animal bedding products from recycled waste materials. So we bring the materials in and we shred that back up into product. Um, as a business, we actually employ people with disabilities. So at least half of our workforce are people with disabilities. And we also provide work placements to other individuals that are looking to move closer to employment. And we have work programs that we offer to them as well.
That's fantastic. Thank you. I know it's never easy to concisely say what is an organisation does in a couple of sentences. So thank you for that. And so just building upon what you said there. So what kind of roles are there within Norfolk Industries, and with the people you have working with you with additional needs, what kind of array of additional needs are represented there?
Okay, so the roles that we have factory operatives that actually produce the product. We have a production supervisor that plans the factory and organises everyone down there. We have a couple of people that work in the office, so business support officers that do our accounts and organise deliveries and collections and purchasing and all of that sort of thing, and also cover reception. We have another role, which is our assessment support officer that helps us deliver our work placement programs. And then there's myself, general manager, and I kind of pick up everything else. So yeah, they're all of the roles that we have within the organisation. With regard to the sort of kind of skills or whatever that we're kind of looking for, because of who we are, and the fact that we're accommodating people with disabilities, our factory op roles are quite flexible in that we have some individuals in here that just do certain tasks that they're able to do because they're restricted by their disability.
Yeah.
But the factory operative role can be as broad as fork truck driving, bandsaw usage, first aid, all of that sort of thing. However, like I say, we always look at the role from the point of view of restrictions for people with disabilities.
Brilliant. No, thank you. And I say it's really interesting to learn, as you say, about the different roles you got on offer there. Sort of, the different responsibilities, and actually that flexibility sounds really nice. As you say, to accommodate, whatever the disability of the staff member may be. And you touched a little bit upon your work placements. I was just wondering if you could tell me a little bit more about sort of how those come about and what kind of different things they can involve.
Sure. Yeah. Well, we Norfolk Industries is actually part of a parent company called Independence Matters, which is a community interest company. And part of our requirement as a community interest company is to ensure that we are providing a service to our local community. So that's where we develop the work placement programs. And we have two different work placement programs. We have one that is very informal, very open and flexible, and is designed to bring people on that may be long-term unemployed or have a disability, or an other disadvantage in the work arena. And we look at moving them closer to work. So that would be things like learning to get in on time, working in a team, learning how to take on board instructions, communication, all of that kind of that sort of soft skills kind of stuff, really. And then we have another program which is called Evolve, which is a lot more structured. It's a 12 to 16 week program, and we also provide training, formal training and development as part of that program. So they're two quite sort of different work placements that we offer, but again, both designed to do the same thing, to move people closer to work that would struggle to get employment for whatever reason, really.
Oh, that sounds amazing, and as you say, a brilliant initiative to be a part of, I'm sure.
It is, and it's lovely to see people kind of grow in front of your eyes, and both obviously both of the work placements involve work in the factory or in our contract packing department, because we do have contract packing as well, and we you know we try and tailor those again to the individual, so that they can get the best out of the programs.
Amazing. And if I'd actually take a look specifically at sort of your role now, general manager is one of those terms that maybe if a young person is watching this, like they might have come across it, and it's one of those job titles which can be applied to lots of different industries, but obviously that doesn't mean that you're all doing the same thing, if you see what I mean. So if you had to sort of, and I will say in advance now, I know there's no such thing as a typical day. Happily throwing that right out there, I'm well aware that's not a thing. But if you had to maybe sort of summarize what it means to be a general manager in Norfolk Industries and what you do on a sort of day-to-day basis, what kind of things are involved?
Well, the very nature of a general manager role is essentially that you're kind of willing to respond to anything and everything that needs doing, really. Because we're just a small team here, there's only actually 8 of us on the payroll, and then we have our people on work placements on top of that. Um, my job role is very, very wide. So I cover everything from budgeting, sales, product development, marketing, health and safety, quality control. The list goes on and on, to be fair. And yeah, one of the main criteria of that general manager role is that you're kind of able to be, I would say, a jack of all trades, but actually sort of like a master of none, really. So you have a really broad knowledge of lots and lots of different things. And you need to be kind of willing to get involved in anything. So, for instance, if there's a breakdown in the factory, chances are I will be made aware of it pretty quickly, and I'll actually be down there and having a look at what the issues are. Having been here for 27 years, I have quite a decent knowledge of all the machines and how all of the products are made. Um, and also, there is an element of, if one member of staff is away, I can actually fill in for that member of staff pretty much wherever they are, whether it's in the factory or in the office. So, as a general manager, it's like you're running your own business essentially, but it's just not yours. So you need to know all of that kind of information. So yeah, that's the general manager heading, I would say.
No, that's actually fantastic. And as I say, it paints a picture that maybe the title of general manager, a lot of people wouldn't think of, as you say, sort of being prepared to sort of, use your skills and knowledge to jump into any sort of part of the organization, at sort of sometimes at a moment's notice.
Yeah.
Whereas I say, sort of, some people might think, oh, just a general manager. Sometimes it makes sounds like you're sort of not getting involved in any specific details, if you see what I mean. Whereas so you're saying it could be completely opposite ways. You need to know the exact processes and the way things work within different parts of the organization, because as I say, your input could be needed there, immediately without you knowing.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. And as you mentioned, a typical day is kind of difficult to call, really. I obviously have, it might be audits that I need to do, and I have that work kind of planned. It might be a case that I need to go to a sales meeting for a potential customer. Um, uh, for instance, on the 3rd of April, I've got a meeting to go to in Huddersfield. So that'll be a long day driving there for about an hour meeting and a long drive back again. And another day it might be helping someone, supporting someone in the factory. It might be, health and safety issue. It could be a bit of product development one day, but I do tend to try and sort of divide my time up in my diary to give me some kind of structure where I can. Otherwise, it's so easy to come in and sit down and think, right, I know there's 101 things to do, but which one should I do first? And
Yeah.
I think that's one of the more stressful things about being a general manager, because there are so many things calling for your attention. Sometimes it's difficult to decide what to do first, really.
Exactly, it's that ability to prioritize, as you say. You've got as 100 fires to put out. It's trying to work out what the biggest fire is to start on first. It's
Yes, yeah. Who's chasing the hardest, I think.
exactly. I like that one. You touched a little bit on earlier. You were talking about soft skills, and you just mentioned there about how you might need to support different people within the workplace. And if someone's watching this video and they're interested about maybe working with people with disabilities in some kind of role or capacity, what kind of soft skills or personality traits or things can they have about themselves that would actually, from your experience, would make you think, what, you'd actually be well suited for a role like that?
That is a really interesting question, actually, and we've kind of talked about this and mulled over this over the years. What we have found is in more recent years, we've adopted a values-based recruitment process.
Okay.
So anyone that is sort of like directly involved in supporting people with disabilities, we've actually found that it is about their values as an individual that matters the most, and actually not about their skills. So it doesn't matter whether people have actually worked with people that have disabilities.
Yeah.
It's about how they are as an individual, whether they have those supportive traits in them, whether they actually care about people, how kind they are, and those sorts of things are the most important for those kinds of roles, because you can have someone with all the skills in the world, but if they've got an absolute dreadful bedside manner, they're not going to be able to deliver those skills in the appropriate way to people with a range of disabilities. So yeah, our values-based recruitment process has absolutely pinned that down. And in the last sort of 3 or 4 times that we have recruited, we've got that absolutely right, which is which is lovely. So yeah, it's all about the values.
And to dig into that further, then, if you were recruiting, and as you say, you're looking to maybe at someone's CV, and you're trying to work out, okay, have they got the values to sort of come and interview or to come and come and work here? What kind, are you looking at the sort of the section where they write about themselves? Are you looking at what they do in their spare time? What sort of clues give you ideas that actually they fit the values that we want someone to to work here?
Well, whenever we do have a vacancy available, we put together a job description for that role that includes a person specification. It's always at the end of the job description. And for us, that is the absolutely essential criteria. So what we do in our recruitment process is anyone that applies, we take all of the bullet points on that person's specification, and we look in the application for evidence that they meet those different bullet points.
Yeah.
And we literally score a point to each. And that's how we shortlist. So what I would say to individuals that looking to apply for jobs is it is really important to tailor your application to the job that you're applying for, because we get so many that are clearly standardized and actually tell us very little about that individual and who they are as a person. And so it's really important that you tailor your job description to the person specification, because that's the person that we're saying we want. We want this person, so we need you to evidence that you are that person.
That's a really useful bit of insight, and it's something I completely agree with. Sort of, I work with a lot of people looking to engage with workplaces, and they think to themselves, if they put together a really good-looking CV or covering letter, they tend to think, okay, that's me covered for every role I want to apply for, no matter the area, no matter the employer. And as you say, one, employers can tell. And two, as you say, most of the time it then won't answer the specialist criteria that each employer is going to be looking for, because as I say, you will have a completely different criteria of a person to, I don't know, someone who a restaurant that's hiring or something like that, if you see what I mean.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Or some, like you say, someone who's front facing with the general public, you're going to have completely different requirements for them as what you are for someone who's got kind of behind the scenes and so on. So yeah, I know that sounds like a massive job for people, but it pays dividends if you can tailor your application to that person's specification, definitely.
I completely agree. And just for my next question, you sort of touched on this when we were talking about your role a little while ago, and you touched about on sort of maybe the challenging parts of your role are, as you say, prioritizing, having lots of things to deal with, thinking, okay, what do I have to deal with first? So this question comes in two parts, sort of to carry on from that. So what are the challenging days in your role like, and what are the really good days like?
Okay, so a good day would be all of production rolling along and working well. It would be people smiling. I mean, that's what we aim for. We all want to have a happy and healthy workplace. So just seeing people smiling and happy in their roles is really heartwarming and is really positive. Um, Getting an inquiry from a potential new customer, that's always really exciting. Seeing people do well when you support them to learn a new task and they really enjoy it. So they're all the really nice, positive things that kind of happen. Seeing work or product actually being dispatched out of the door, that's always really good.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side of that, a bad day can be things like machinery breaking down, always stressful. Um, things not, things not going right with people, if you see what I mean. Like there might be, God forbid, an accident. I mean, that would be an absolute nightmare. Or some friction between two people working together. Um, Things like that are always the kind of curveballs that you don't plan for, but are at some point going to happen. Yeah, so they're the things that make a bad day, and they 9 times out of 10 they always involve sort of like a stressful situation, really.
Yeah, no, completely understandable. And as I say, yeah, those are the kind of days that sort of you hope don't come along too frequently. Um,
Yes, yeah, and
and
if they do,
yeah,
it can build up quite quickly. If you have sort of like several bad days in a row, it can feel really awful.
yeah,
But you just have to hang on to the positive stuff, because especially in a business like this, there's so much lovely things that are happening. And yeah, you have to grasp hold of those.
no, I completely agree with that as a message. And I think you could apply that to a lot of things in life, let alone work. Being that, as you say, sort of on those challenging days in your workplace, think about what the good days are like. Think about what the end product is. Think about the positive impact you're having or what you're achieving. Never let that leave your mind. And going on to my final question, really, and you sort of touched on the experience you've got within the industry, and sort of the time you spent with Norfolk Industries. If I had to ask you to go back and sort of, let's say, speak to, let's say, 17, 18-year-old Sharon, you're about to go out sort of on your career path, and take into account sort of the successes you've had, maybe the mistakes you've made and learned from, what would be the one piece of career advice you would give to your younger self?
I think it would be, don't put yourself in a box. Don't, especially at a really young age, don't decide this is what I'm going to do, and and put all of your efforts into that, because life takes you on a journey, and a lot of the time you never know where that journey is going to go. I never ever expected to be a general manager in a factory. Was never ever on my radar. I never expected to work with people with disabilities. That wasn't something that I intended to do. I didn't do that kind of training or learning at school and college. All I knew is that I wanted to work in an office because I didn't want to be cold outside in the winter. And I achieved that. But yeah, my journey has kind of brought me to this role, and I am so glad that it did, because I never could have predicted that. So I think it's just keep your mind open, and yeah, look at the positives and kind of just roll with it, really, because you never know where these opportunities might take you, or who might offer you that opportunity, actually.